I don't mean to be stereotypical, but I'm what most people would refer to as a stoner. Now don't take that as me admitting to doing meth and all that other crazy shit. But if I was high and somebody had offered me some, I would probably go for it. Luckily, that's never happened. I'm only a junior in high school, so I don't want my entire life going down the shitter right before my eyes. So I usually just stick to the safe stuff, like weed. I think anybody who has ever smoked weed can agree that getting high is the best feeling in the world, and that's why I keep doing it. Whatever, I'm getting off track, but trust me, it does come into play later. This story started on Friday of last week. It is Sunday when I'm writing this, and I'm still not sure if everything I saw was a dream or not. The day started off as pretty normal. I got out of bed, got dressed in my usual attire, a t-shirt, basketball shorts, and a backwards baseball cap, and I headed downstairs to get some breakfast. My dad was packing up things in his briefcase as I was walking into the kitchen. "Hey Dylan, your mom and I are gonna be out a little late tonight. Anniversary, remember? Anyways, just make sure you get home on time so you can watch your sister while we're gone. You got it?" He said quickly as he began to walk towards the door. I had completely forgotten about their anniversary, and I hated whenever I had to watch my sister alone. Don't get me wrong, I love my sister just as much as anybody should, but I was horrible at taking care of her alone, especially after a long day of school. I hid my annoyance though, and I responded quickly. Yeah, sure, have fun I guess," I said. Dad smiled and he walked out of the door. "Don't forget," he yelled as the door closed behind me. My mom was already on her way to school with my sister, so I was the only person left in the house. I checked the clock and I saw that it was already 7:50. I grabbed a donut from the package on the counter and I headed out the door, taking my backpack on the way out. I climbed into my car and I headed out onto the road. I got there just in time for classes to start at 8:20. I parked my car in the large lot and I jogged into the building. There were still quite a few students roaming around, so I assumed I still had some time before I had to head to class. I walked past the front desk and up the stairs in the direction of my locker. Before I could take a step, I felt a cold, hard hand on my shoulder. I turned around quickly and I saw my friend Max smiling at me. His shaggy blonde hair partially covered his eyes and I never understood how he could see. He was wearing a Hawaiian shirt with a blue t-shirt underneath and some khaki shorts. His style is interesting to say the least. "What's up, man?" he said quietly, slurring his words a little. "Oh, hey Max," I responded as I walked towards the stairs to the second floor. "Dude, you're not going to believe what I got last night," Max said excitedly as he ran up the stairs as fast as he could. I tried my best to keep up with him. "What is it?" I responded, intrigued. He only smiled wider. "Oh, I don't think you're ready, dude." We began walking down the hallway that my locker was in, zigzagging through students the whole time. "Cut the bullshit, Max. What is it?" I said, smiling. "Okay, but don't tell anybody about it." He stopped walking for a second and looked around and he unzipped his backpack. I looked inside and I saw 3 glass bongs sitting comfortably inside the backpack. He zipped his backpack up and he kept walking. I ran up to catch him. "Holy shit, dude. Why the hell did you bring those to school?" I said quietly. I was excited to try them, but I also didn't want my best friend to get caught and get suspended. I wanted to try them out as soon as possible. "Meet me at my locker before lunch if you're not a baby. We're gonna have a real party. See you around, Dill," he said as he sprinted away happily, probably looking for more people to invite to the party. "No running in the halls, mister," Mr. Horn, the vice principal, yelled. "Eat a dick, Horn." Max screamed back as Mr. Horn didn't care enough to chase after him. I laughed hysterically as he ran away, and Mr. Horn didn't seem to like it. He walked up to me angrily and he said, "Wipe that smirk off your face, mister. Get to class." He walked away quickly, heading to God knows where. I stopped laughing and I sighed, happy that I hadn't gotten a detention. Despite being a pretty big stoner and being friends with a lot of idiots, I generally got pretty good grades and I didn't get in trouble too often, so close calls like this always made me nervous. We had happened to stop right in front of my locker, so I grabbed the books I needed and I headed to my first class, World History. When I sat down in my seat, I noticed that my teacher, Mrs. Watson, seemed surprisingly happy. She was a usually pretty boring teacher, so seeing her smiling like this was kind of strange. I just passed it off as nothing though and soon got lost in conversation with my classmates. After a few minutes, the PA system turned on, and we listened in for our morning announcements. Our principal, Mrs. Lundell, always seemed very happy and bubbly on the announcements. No one else in my class seemed to notice, so I just ignored it. "Good morning, students. Parkview South High School. I hope you're having a great Friday. Today is January 25th, 2019. As you all probably know, today is National Consumption Day." Mrs. Lundell seemed extra excited when saying this, and Mrs. Watson smiled wider at the announcement. Most of the people in my class were confused and I didn't know what that meant, but everybody just assumed it was one of those dumb holidays that no one celebrates, except for 40-year-old moms on Facebook, like National Chocolate Day and National Cute Dogs Day. Stupid stuff like that. And the announcements continued. "In celebration of this holiday, our lunch ladies will be serving specially made hamburgers in the cafeteria today." Everybody in the class seemed excited, but I didn't care since I had other plans for lunch. As I was looking around at people smiling, I swear I saw Mrs. Watson drooling for a second, but it seemed to go away as soon as I blinked. I thought I was just imagining things and I ignored it. The announcements continued as normal and we then started class. Nothing was really out of the ordinary in this class other than the fact that Mrs. Watson was so excited the whole time. Other than that though, the class was the typical bore fest it usually was. The rest of the classes were similar and I had trouble staying awake in most of them. The only interesting thing about them was the fact that every teacher was acting like how Mrs. Watson had acted. Excited and happy beyond belief. It was really weird for me and it started to kind of creep me out. I could tell I wasn't the only one who had noticed it, but most of my classmates had just tried to ignore it at this point, so I followed their lead. My last class before lunch was gym. We were playing basketball like we usually did, and I didn't feel like playing today. Me and a few of my friends decided to hide under the bleachers after class had started. While we were under there, I asked my buddy Andrew if Max had approached him with the party offer, and he told me that Max had asked over 30 people about it. I had hoped that that wasn't true because at least one of those people would snitch if anything bad were to happen. I told him that he better keep it a secret, and Andrew assured me that he wouldn't snitch. I looked him straight in the eyes and passed the glasses, and I could tell that he was telling the truth. A few minutes later, the lunch bell rang and a few friends and I headed over to Max's locker. When we arrived, Max was waiting eagerly for us. "Right this way, gentlemen," Max said, doing his best at a British accent as he led us all the way into the bathroom. "Shut up, Max," my friend Jake said as we walked in. There were 6 of us in there, including myself. The others were Max, Andrew, Jake, and 2 of our other friends, Will and Quentin. We all found a place to either sit or stand and we waited for Max to walk back in. "Are you guys ready for the greatest experience of your life?" Max said, smiling sinisterly. "Yeah, I'm ready, man," Quentin yelled excitedly. Quentin was a sophomore and he had never tried anything like this before, because we had never let him in. I guess Max thought he was ready now, and Q seemed pretty stoked. "Calm yourself, Q, it's just weed," Will said, laughing. Max slowly pulled out the bongs and started setting them up. "Have any of you, other than Max, ever even smoked a bong before?" I asked, looking around the room. The boys all stared at me blankly, until finally Andrew spoke and said that he had once. "Okay, well, for the rest of you, and get ready for the greatest moment of your life," I said happily while closing my eyes. Q's eyes got real wide and everybody else just laughed. And eventually, after a little while, Max pulled out the bongs again. "Who wants to go first?" he asked. Q, Andrew, and I all got up and got ready to take the hit. Max handed us lighters and we put our mouths up to the top of the bong. I took a deep breath and I lit the lighter. Let me just tell you, this hit was unlike anything I had ever felt before. I don't know what Max had done with that weed, but I was immediately higher than I had ever been in my entire life. I sucked up as much smoke as possible, inhaled, and then I blew it back out. I looked over at Q and Andrew, but they both seemed just as surprised as me. Andrew began coughing and Q just stood there wide-eyed. I blew the smoke out from my lungs and I coughed a little bit. "Whoa!" I screamed after I finished coughing. "That was freaking awesome, Max. Like really good shit," I said, slurring my words. After all three of us had hit, the rest of the group began to try theirs and they reacted the same. After a few minutes, the bathroom was filled with smoke and we all were stoned out of our minds. "So, how does it feel?" Max asked happily. "Damn, man, this shit's insane," Will responded. "It feels like I'm in heaven," Q said quietly. We all laughed and I got up to take another hit. "Oh, Dill's going in for another one," Andrew screamed while laughing. I lit the lighter and I took the biggest hit I had ever taken in my entire life. I immediately began coughing and I felt sick. "I gotta go to the bathroom real quick," I said quickly as I ran into one of the stalls and I locked the door. I puked into the toilet and I pulled myself onto the seat and I sat down. I could hear everybody else outside laughing at me. Suddenly I got super tired and I forgot about everything else going on around me. And before I knew it, I was knocked out cold. I woke up, my body sprawled out in the dirty bathroom stall. I felt disgusted and my entire body was covered in sweat. My body smelled worse than the bathroom itself and my vision was very blurry. I sat upright and I rubbed my eyes to try to see my surroundings better. The lights of the bathroom were off and it was almost pitch black in there. I shoved the stall door open and I stumbled out, my backpack barely hanging onto my back. My body was sore from the strange position that I had been sleeping in, and my legs felt as if they were broken. I stood for a few seconds, slowly remembering what had happened. It took a little while, but I began to piece together the events leading up to this with Max and the bongs and everything else that had happened in the day. I looked around at the room, admiring the mess we had caused during our stoner party. I felt like shit and I wondered why my friends had just left me in there. Maybe they forgot or they didn't want to disturb me. It didn't matter now. What mattered now was getting out of here and getting home. I pulled my phone out of my pocket and I checked the time. 2:13 a.m. I had slept through the entire day. I quickly began limping my way through the room and I stumbled out into the hall. It was too dark and it was completely abandoned. There was trash and paper all over the place, but I just ignored it. I walked through the hall staying quiet, just in case there was a janitor or a security guard. I hadn't seen anything, so I began to feel safer. As I made my way through the empty maze-like halls, I began to hear music coming from somewhere in the building. I continued making my way to the entrance and the music continued getting louder. It seemed to be some kind of 20s ballroom type music or something. I'm not a music junkie, so I could be wrong about this. I had finally made it to the lobby when I was about to walk out, but I saw lights coming from the gymnasium near the cafeteria. I decided that I might as well check it out since I was really curious what was going on. This was a huge mistake. I slowly walked down the hall towards the cafeteria, and I stayed close to the wall so no one in there could see me. I looked inside and I saw no one in there, so I stepped in. When I walked in through the cafeteria towards the gym, I saw that there were massive tables set up with very fancy plates and silverware on them. Maybe there was a dinner that I didn't know about. But then again, it's 2 in the morning, so that possibility was out of the question. I inched my way closer to the gym when the music became completely clear, and the lights were very visible to me. I ran to the entrance and quickly, without thinking, I climbed under the bleachers to watch what was happening. I looked around and saw about 100 people dressed very nicely, dancing around the gymnasium. It seemed to be some kind of ball. The place was decorated completely differently to how it looked earlier that day, and I was amazed that they would be able to change it so much, so quickly. There were banners and streamers lining the walls and ceilings, and there were multiple chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, illuminating the dancers on the ground below. The building didn't even look like a gym anymore. I watched in disbelief as the men and women danced their hearts out to the formal music, until eventually a tall man wearing a red suit stepped onto the stage and began speaking into the microphone. "Attention, attention everyone," he said nicely. I squinted my eyes to try to get a better look, and I gasped when my eyes finally focused. It was Mr. Horn, our vice principal. What the hell was he doing up there? I tried my best to stay quiet and watch. "I hope you all have been enjoying our beautiful Consumption Day ball," he said, smiling. Consumption Day. That's what they had mentioned on the announcements earlier. I was very confused now, and I won't lie, a little scared. The entire room began clapping. "Once again, I would like to thank the beautiful Mrs. Lundell for so graciously decorating our banquet today. And I would also like to thank the wonderful families who sponsor our monthly Consumption Day events. They should all be standing here in the front row. Let's give them a big round of applause." The room erupted in cheers and applause once again. I was surprised when he said that these happen monthly. How has nobody noticed these when they happen so often? Now, we have been enjoying the accommodations here for quite some time now, but I think it is finally time for the main event, he said excitedly. Everyone in the audience was smiling and I heard some laughter. "I'm sure you're all eager to see who our subjects are for tonight's banquet. So here they are. Mr. Wilson, bring them out." Mr. Horn yelled excitedly as the crowd exploded with more cheers and screams. Mr. Wilson was my gym teacher and I used to really like him, but my opinion has greatly changed now. He slowly walked onto the stage carrying a long chain. Following him were 3 students who had their hands and feet shackled and were stumbling onto the stage. The crowd got louder with cheers and applause. The kids on stage looked terrified and I tried my best to get a better look at them. I could tell that there were 2 girls and 1 guy, but I couldn't get a good look at their faces. I was shocked when I focused because I recognized all 3 of them as some of my classmates. I had recognized the first girl from my history class, and the other 2 just had faces that I was sure that I had seen before. I had seen that girl in class just that day. They were dressed in casual clothing, but it was very dirty and torn, presumably from all the struggling and fighting they did with the teachers. I could see that the girls were crying and the guy was trying the best to hide his fear. These 3 fine students have been hand-selected by our fine staff, and to be sacrificed for our own pleasure, For you new members of the audience, remember the rules we taught you at the beginning. To keep your youth, you must eat the meat of somebody who is 17 or younger. That's when the truth really hit me. This wasn't just a party for some made-up holiday. They were killing these kids and eating them so they could look young forever. This was a sacrifice. So, who is ready for the slaughter? Mr. Wilson asked loudly. The crowd screamed louder than ever before, and it seemed more like a rock concert now than a formal banquet. Mr. Wilson suddenly pulled out a large knife and lunged it deep into the first girl's abdomen. I gasped and I shot my hand over my mouth. I had never seen anything like that before, and the sight of blood pouring out of her stomach made me want to faint again. The girl screamed with all of her might, and that sound is still planted permanently in my mind. I was frozen with fear during this, and I watched as the other two kids were chloroformed and passed out on stage. I guess they wanted to save the butchering of the other kids for later. Mr. Wilson continued stabbing at the girl until finally all that was left was a pile of blood and guts. I was horrified, and I didn't come back to my senses until Mr. Horn walked back up to the microphone. Now that our first meal is ready to be cooked, I would like to ask everybody to please move into the cafeteria. We will return here after a while to continue our slaughtering. Slowly the people began to make their way out of the gym, and I watched as Mr. Wilson removed the shackles from the three students and placed the blood and guts into a large tub and carried it into the cafeteria. The people leaving were all smiling wide and were obviously very excited for what was to come. I guess I hadn't noticed how young all my teachers looked for their age, and now that I was looking at all of these other adults, they all looked young too. After everybody had left, all that was left were the two kids on stage and me under the bleachers. I waited a few minutes just to make sure that the coast was clear, and to completely come to my senses before crawling out. Finally, I stepped out from under and I looked in the doorway of the cafeteria. Everybody was seated at the tables, and I guess they have some masterful chefs there because already there were some men in tuxedos bringing out beautiful steaks for the guests. I watched as they gnawed into them like wild animals, and I saw the blood oozing out of their mouths. Some of them were even using their hands and ripping the steak apart piece by piece. I knew I had to get out of there fast before they came back into the gym. I looked around and I spotted an emergency exit, but sadly it was locked. There were no exits in the gym that were open, so I would have to face the crowd for real. Before I stepped out, I remembered the kids on the stage. I couldn't just leave them there. I ran over to the stage and I started shaking the kids, trying to wake them up. Guys, wake up, I said quietly. They were still fast asleep though. Eventually I started slapping them and finally they both started to come to. The guy sat up first. What happened? He asked. Where did everybody go? The girl asked immediately after. Who the hell are you? The boy said suddenly, backing away quickly. Hey, calm down, I'm here to help you. I'm not with them, I'm a student here. I recognize you guys, I think I've seen you around before. My name's Dylan. They looked at me confused. Thank God. We thought we were dead meat, man, legit. I'm Sam, he said, relieved. The girl spoke next. Yeah, I'm Bridget. This is insane. Did they really just kill Katie? She asked, tearing up a bit. The other girl? Yeah, definitely. I was hiding under those bleachers when it happened. They stabbed her and then they knocked you guys out. Sorry about it, I whispered sympathetically. It's okay. But how are we supposed to get out of here? There's people all over the place, Bridget said loudly. Sam put a finger over his lips to tell her to be quiet. Sorry, she whispered. I say we all hide under the bleachers until the people come back in. When they do and notice that you guys are gone, We make a run for it," I said, staring intently at them. "Great idea if you want to get us killed. They can catch us easily. We have a better bet just sneaking out," Sam said. Bridget nodded. "I agree. We can use the pillows on the side and the trash cans to hide from them until we get to the hallway," she exclaimed. "All right, let's do it then," I said nervously. We quietly walked towards the doorway. I watched as the guests continued to bury their faces in the steak. They all seemed distracted, so we saw this as a good opportunity to run. I pointed to one of the pillars and we all ran. We were quiet and all three of us hid behind the pillar watching the people devour their meals. Sam quickly ran ahead and hid behind a trash can. I motioned for him to stop at first, but then I realized that he had made it. Bridget and I continued the simple path by running from pillar to pillar. We were almost to the hallway when suddenly, the unthinkable happened. Bridget had tripped on her shoelace and crashed into the ground. Every guest in the room turned to look and immediately knew what was going on. They all smiled, looking at us like we were fresh meat. We looked like deer in headlights. Suddenly they all got up and they started yelling, "Get the subjects! We can use that other boy too. How did they get out?" All of these sentences were mixed together in a flurry of screams. As soon as Bridget fell, I had screamed, "Run!" before helping her up and catching up with Sam. We sprinted as fast as we could towards the exit with the large crowd chasing behind us. We made it to the front entrance and we shoved open the front doors. We slammed the doors closed behind us and I grabbed a pipe on the ground and I lodged it in between the door handles, locking it. The crowd was stopped but began banging on the doors to open them. Sam stopped and began to sigh and I looked at him confused. "What are you doing? Keep running." I screamed at him as the three of us sprinted away from the doors. "My car is parked over here, just follow me," I yelled loudly. We sprinted through the parking lot as fast as we possibly could, and I jumped in the driver's seat of my car. Sam hopped in next to me and Bridget jumped in the back. "Go, go, go!" Bridget screamed. I started the car and I swerved out of my parking space. I looked over at the school and I saw that the doors had been busted open. The crowd began running towards our car, but I was able to speed my way out of the lot before the crowd could catch us. I drove as fast as I possibly could, out of that lot, and I watched as the crowd slowed down and eventually stopped running. "We're safe now, guys. We made it," I said with a smile on my face. The whole experience was so surreal for me, and I still don't know if I managed to imagine the whole thing. We headed to the police station immediately after this had happened. They took our claims seriously, but when they arrived at the school a few hours later, they found nothing out of the ordinary. I still don't know how the teachers were able to clean up so much in such a quick amount of time. The cops said that they could start an investigation, but I don't think it would turn up anything. I got Sam and Bridget's contact info and we've been talking a lot this weekend about what happened and trying to figure out how to fix it. We still don't really know. They both told me that they had convinced their parents to send them to different schools, because they are in serious danger at Parkview. But I don't think I could ever convince my parents of that. Speaking of parents, when I got home, they were both super pissed at me for ditching on my sister. But I just made the excuse that I got sick and I crashed at my friend's house. Considering how sweaty and dirty I was, they believed me and only grounded me for a week. I didn't want to tell them what had happened because I know they would just say that I'm crazy. I'm pretty sure none of the teachers there saw my face because I haven't heard anything about the situation yet. It's Sunday night right now and I still don't know if I should go to school tomorrow. I don't want to go in case they know I was there on Friday, but if I don't go, then that'll make me seem more suspicious for the teachers. I'm really in a dilemma here, and I'm not sure what I should do now. I'm posting this story here in hopes that maybe I'm not the only one who had experienced something like this, and maybe there's somebody out there who can help me. All I know is that I'm never smoking at school ever again.